You use Blaise Pascal's thinking at least 3 times today. Maybe you checked your weather app this morning. Barometric pressure reading. That's Pascal. Perhaps you calculated a tip on your phone. Digital calculator descended directly from his invention. Definitely you made a decision weighing uncertain outcomes. Job offer, relationship choice, whether to leave the party early. That's probability theory, which Pascal literally invented. You've been living inside the 17th century French mathematician's mind without knowing it. Here's what makes this wild. Pascal isn't just some footnote in history textbooks. He's not the guy you vaguely remember from high school physics and then forget. He's a hidden architect of modern life. The thinking behind your smartphone, your bus route, your understanding of risk, your medical treatment, even the way you conceptualize infinity. And here's the kicker. The same precision that let him invent the calculator, the same mathematical genius that gave you probability theory, the same mind that designed the first public bus system, that exact same mind turned its full attention to diagnosing why you feel empty on Sunday nights, why you scroll endlessly, why you've achieved everything you thought you wanted and still feel hollow. Pascal saw something nobody else saw, that human beings use the same mental patterns to avoid discomfort that they use to solve mathematical problems. We're just as precise in our self-deception as we are in our calculations. Think about it. You probably know the odds of winning the lottery. Terrible. You understand probability enough not to bet your savings on blackjack. But you still distract yourself from existential questions with the exact precision of a mathematical formula. Scroll, stream, work, repeat. It's algorithmic avoidance. Pascal invented the mathematics to calculate probability. Then he used that same analytical mind to calculate what you're actually afraid of when you can't sit alone in a quiet room for 20 minutes. Same genius, same precision, same guy. The inventions we're about to explore aren't just cool historical trivia. They're evidence. Each one proves Pascal's mind worked differently, saw patterns others missed, saw problems others couldn't imagine. And when that mind diagnosed the human condition, when it analyzed your inner life with the same rigor applied to atmospheric pressure, maybe we should pay attention. I know Pascal probably sounds like ancient history. French guy, funny collar, talked about God a lot. Feels irrelevant to your Tuesday morning. But here's my promise. By the end of this episode, you'll recognize Pascal in your pocket, in your commute, in the medical equipment that might save your life. You'll see how his inventions aren't separate from his psychological insights. They're the same vision applied to different problems. More importantly, you'll understand why the guy who invented your calculator app maybe, just maybe, understood why you compulsively check it to avoid thinking about whether you're happy. We're starting with 7 concrete inventions you use constantly. Then we're going to see what happens when that same mind looks at you. If you want to discover more brilliant thinkers who shape modern life in ways you've never noticed, subscribe to this channel where we explore the hidden architects of how you think. Let's start with the most obvious one. Pascal invented the calculator. But here's what you need to understand about the context. It's 1642. Pascal is 19 years old. His father is a tax commissioner drowning in arithmetic, adding endless columns of numbers by hand, making mistakes, starting over. Young Blaise watches his dad's exhaustion and thinks, there has to be a better way. So he builds one, the Pascaline, the first mechanical calculator that actually worked. Brass gears and wheels that could add and subtract automatically. You turn dials to input numbers, and the machine did the math. Revolutionary doesn't even cover it. Before Pascal, calculation was human labor, prone to error, exhaustingly slow. After Pascal, it was mechanical precision. Now, every calculator app on every smartphone descends from this moment. That's not metaphorical. It's a direct technological lineage. Digital calculators use different technology, obviously, but the conceptual breakthrough is identical. Automate arithmetic to free human minds for higher thinking. Notice what Pascal did here. He saw his father suffering, not abstract suffering, concrete exhaustion, and responded with precision engineering, compassion expressed through mathematics. That combination defines everything Pascal ever created. But here's where it gets interesting for us. Building the Pascaline required Pascal to think about thinking. How does the human mind actually perform addition? What's happening when you carry the one? He had to understand cognitive process clearly enough to mechanize it. You know what that is? That's psychology. That's analyzing how human consciousness works, so precisely that you can build a machine to replicate it. At 19, the same analytical approach. Break down the mental process, understand it mechanically, build systems around it. That's what Pascal later applied to human behavior. Why do we distract ourselves? What's the mechanical process of self-deception? Can we understand our avoidance patterns with the same precision we understand arithmetic? Your phone's calculator app is useful because it does math. Pascal's invention was revolutionary because it proved the human mind could be understood systematically. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Pascal built 50 prototypes of the Pascaline. 50 attempts, most of which failed, before he got it right. That's not genius inspiration. That's systematic problem solving. Trial, error, refinement, persistence. When Pascal later writes about human nature, about why we flee from silence, about the specific mechanisms of self-deception, he's using the same methodology. He's not guessing. He's observing, testing, refining his understanding through 50 mental prototypes until he gets it right. The Pascaline teaches us something crucial about Pascal. He wasn't a dreamy philosopher spouting abstract theories. He was an engineer who built working machines. And when he turned his attention to the human soul, he brought the same engineer's precision. So yeah, you use Pascal's calculator descendant every time you split a check or calculate a mortgage. But more importantly, you're encountering a mind that understood human consciousness can be analyzed, patterns can be identified, systems can be built to address real problems. That mindset, that combination of compassion, helping his father, and precision, mechanical engineering, and psychology, understanding thought processes. That's what we're dealing with when Pascal talks about why you can't stop scrolling. He's not preaching. He's engineering a diagnosis of the human condition with the same rigor he engineered brass gears. And here's the transition to what comes next. Pascal didn't stop with calculation. He turned that same systematic mind to every problem he encountered, including problems nobody else had even named yet. Now, this one's massive. Pascal literally invented probability theory. Before Pascal, humans understood luck, but not likelihood. You knew dice were random, but nobody had mathematical tools to analyze randomness. Gambling existed for millennia without anyone able to calculate actual odds. Then in 1654, a gambler named Chevalier de Mere approached Pascal with a puzzle. If you're forced to stop a dice game midway through, how do you divide the pot fairly? Simple question, completely unsolvable with existing mathematics. Pascal became obsessed. He corresponded with mathematician Pierre de Fermat, and together they developed the foundational principles of probability theory. They created the mathematics of uncertainty. Think about what that means. Before Pascal, you couldn't quantify risk. After Pascal, you could calculate it. Insurance becomes possible. Actuarial science becomes possible. Modern statistics becomes possible. Every risk assessment you make, from whether to buy extended warranty to whether to take a new job, relies on conceptual tools Pascal invented. You use probability theory constantly without realizing it. When you check weather forecasts, 70% chance of rain. That's Pascal's framework. When you see polling data, margin of error plus or minus 3%. That's Pascal's mathematics. When a doctor explains treatment options, this surgery has an 85% success rate. You're receiving information only intelligible because Pascal taught us how to think about likelihood. But here's what fascinates me about this invention. Pascal created the mathematics of uncertainty and then immediately applied it to the ultimate uncertain question: does God exist? The famous Pascal's wager is literally probability theory applied to existential questions. If you believe in God and you're right, infinite gain. If you believe and you're wrong, finite loss. If you don't believe and you're wrong, infinite loss. Therefore, rationally, you should wager on belief. Now, you can object to the wager. Lots of people do, including religious believers. But notice what Pascal's doing. He's treating the biggest question humans ask with the same analytical rigor he brought to dice games. No hand-waving, no just of faith, no intellectual sloppiness. Pure mathematical reasoning applied to ultimate concerns. Same precision, same methodology, same guy who calculated gambling odds, calculating existential stakes. Here's why this matters for you. Pascal proved that uncertainty isn't the enemy of rational thinking. You can think clearly about unclear situations. You can make wise decisions without complete information. You can face the biggest, scariest questions, mortality, meaning, purpose, with analytical tools. You already do this with insurance. You pay premiums accepting uncertain outcomes because the math makes sense. Pascal's saying, apply that same reasoning to how you live, what you value, what you're betting your one life on. Most people compartmentalize. Science and math over here, precise, rational. Philosophy and meaning over there, subjective, emotional. Pascal demolishes that wall. The same thinking that calculates odds can calculate what's worth living for. And notice, Pascal didn't invent probability theory to win at gambling. He barely cared about that. He invented it because he saw a gap in human knowledge, a problem unsolved, and his mind couldn't leave it alone. Then immediately, he turned the new tool toward the deepest human questions. That restlessness, that drive to understand everything with the same rigor, that refusal to leave any domain of human experience unexamined. That's vintage Pascal. So when you check if you need an umbrella and see 60% chance of rain, you're using Pascal's invention twice. Once, obviously, the probability calculation itself. But twice, more subtly, you're practicing the mental habit Pascal pioneered. Treating uncertainty as something you can think clearly about rather than something that paralyzes you. You're learning through weather apps and insurance and medical statistics that you can make wise choices in an uncertain world, that you can calculate risk without pretending you have certainty. Pascal would say, good. Now apply that same habit to the bigger questions you're avoiding. What are the odds your current life trajectory leads to fulfillment? What's the probability that the things distracting you actually satisfy? Can you calculate what you're wagering your existence on? Same math, higher stakes. Moving to another surprising invention. This one surprises everyone. Blaise Pascal invented public transportation. Seriously, in 1662, Pascal designed and launched the first public bus system in Paris. The carrosses à 5 sols, 5-penny coaches, fixed routes, scheduled stops. Anyone could pay and ride. Before Pascal, coaches were for rich people who could afford private carriages. After Pascal, working-class Parisians could move around the city affordably. This is mass transit. This is a conceptual ancestor of every subway system, every bus route, every public transportation network in every American city. The idea that mobility shouldn't be a luxury, that cities work better when everyone can move freely, that public infrastructure serves collective good, that starts here. And it was Pascal's idea. But here's what makes this invention revealing. Pascal was dying. Literally. This is 1662, the year before his death. He's chronically ill, in constant pain, barely functional. And what does he do with his remaining energy? He designs a system to help poor people get to work. Notice the pattern. The calculator helped his exhausted father. Probability theory helped gamblers and everyone else think clearly about risk. Now, public buses help working people afford transportation. Every invention solves a human problem. If this pattern of brilliant minds solving real-world problems fascinates you as much as it fascinates me, hit the like button so more people discover these hidden connections in history. Pascal's engineering always had compassion baked in. He didn't invent for glory or profit. He invented because he couldn't stand watching people suffer when solutions existed. Think about the pure design genius here. Pascal had to figure out optimal routes, predictable schedules, affordable pricing, driver wages, vehicle maintenance, passenger safety. This is urban planning, economics, logistics, and social policy wrapped into one innovation. Same systematic thinking he brought to mathematics, now applied to city infrastructure. Break down the problem, identify variables, test solutions, implement systems. An engineer's mind solving social problems. But here's where it connects to Pascal's darker insights. Why did he invent public buses while dying in agony? Because he couldn't sit still with his suffering. Because distraction from mortality, even productive, compassionate distraction, is still distraction. Pascal diagnosed advertisement, distraction from existential anxiety, as the core human problem. And then he proved it by being unable to stop working even while dying. He saw the trap, named it clearly, explained exactly how we flee from confronting our mortality through constant activity, and then fell into it himself. Brilliantly, compassionately, but still, he kept moving, kept inventing, kept solving problems right up until death. That's not hypocrisy. That's honesty about how hard it is to sit with existential reality. Even when you understand the pattern intellectually, you still feel the pull to avoid it. You know this. You've read articles about smartphone addiction, maybe even agreed with the diagnosis, and then checked your phone 15 minutes later. Understanding the trap doesn't automatically free you from it. Pascal gives you permission to struggle. He didn't figure everything out and live perfectly. He saw the problem clearly, more clearly than almost anyone in history, and still wrestled with it until his last breath. Your morning commute, if you take public transit, follows the blueprint Pascal invented while wrestling with mortality. You're sitting on a bus whose conceptual ancestor was designed by a man who knew he was dying and chose to spend his remaining energy helping strangers get to work. There's something profound there about what makes life meaningful especially when you know it's finite. Pascal could have spent his last year in pure contemplation, preparing his soul, meditating on eternity. Instead, he designed bus routes. Not because he didn't take spiritual questions seriously. He took them more seriously than almost anyone, but because he understood serving others, solving concrete problems, reducing human suffering. That's not separate from spiritual life. That's how spiritual life becomes real. The same guy who told you to sit alone in a quiet room and confront your mortality also told you to get up and design bus systems for poor people. Both insights from the same mind. Both necessary. Both true. Let's talk about two more inventions quickly because they're related. Pascal proved how barometers work and invented the syringe. Both save lives regularly. The barometer story is actually hilarious. Scientists knew mercury rose and fell in tubes, but couldn't explain why. The reigning theory was nature abhors a vacuum. Basically, mystical nonsense pretending to be physics. Pascal thought that was stupid. He hypothesized atmospheric pressure. Air as weight presses down on mercury, and pressure changes with altitude. To test this, Pascal convinced his brother-in-law to carry a barometer up a mountain. Puy-de-Dôme in central France. Brutal hike, but as altitude increased, mercury level dropped. Exactly as Pascal predicted. Boom! Atmospheric pressure proven. Nature doesn't abhor anything. It follows physical laws we can measure and predict. That experiment founded modern meteorology. Every weather forecast checking barometric pressure traces back to Pascal, sending his brother-in-law up a mountain with mercury and a hypothesis. Your weather app exists because Pascal refused to accept mystical explanations when mechanical ones were testable. Notice the methodology again. Clear hypothesis, testable prediction, empirical verification. This is the scientific method applied rigorously. Pascal wasn't speculating. He was experimenting. Then there's the syringe. Pascal invented an early version of the hypodermic syringe while experimenting with hydraulics and pressure. He was studying how fluids behave in tubes, building on his barometric work, and realized you could use pressure to inject or extract fluids precisely. Medical syringes descend from this insight. Every vaccine, every blood test, every injection of insulin or anesthesia, delivered via descendants of Pascal's hydraulic experiments. How many lives saved by vaccines? Millions, hundreds of millions, maybe billions if you count smallpox eradication, all dependent on syringe technology that started with Pascal playing with tubes and pressure. Here's what strikes me. Pascal didn't set out to revolutionize medicine. He was studying physics. How does pressure work? How do fluids behave? Pure curiosity about natural phenomena. But when you understand fundamental principles correctly, applications explode in unexpected directions. Figure out atmospheric pressure. Suddenly you can predict weather and design altimeters and understand how lungs work. Figure out hydraulics. Suddenly you can inject medicine and extract blood and save lives. Pascal's genius wasn't just solving specific problems. It was understanding principles so deeply that solutions multiplied beyond his imagination. And here's where I need you to make a connection. When Pascal analyzes human nature, why we distract ourselves, why we flee silence, why we're simultaneously miserable and great, he's using the same approach. He's not guessing about psychology. He's observing human behavior as carefully as he observed mercury in tubes. He's testing hypotheses about motivation as rigorously as he tested atmospheric pressure. He's identifying underlying principles that generate countless specific applications. When Pascal says humans can't sit alone in a quiet room without distraction, that's not poetic exaggeration. That's empirical observation. When he diagnoses our need for divertisement, he's naming a fundamental principle of human psychology the way he named atmospheric pressure as a principle of physics. Same scientific rigor, same demand for evidence, same refusal to accept superficial explanations. You trust Pascal's barometer to predict storms because it's based on tested physical principles. Maybe you should trust Pascal's analysis of human restlessness for the same reason. It's based on tested psychological principles. The guy who sent his brother-in-law up a mountain to verify a hypothesis about air pressure also verified hypotheses about human nature by systematically observing how people actually behave, including himself. He watched people gamble compulsively, work obsessively, chase pleasure desperately, avoid solitude pathologically, and he asked the same question he asked about mercury. What's the underlying principle here? What pressure are we responding to? His answer: we're fleeing the terror of confronting our mortality and meaninglessness. We're under existential pressure the way mercury is under atmospheric pressure, and we respond predictably by seeking distraction, the way mercury responds predictably by rising or falling. That's not philosophy. That's physics of the soul. Tested, verified, repeatable, and just as reliable as the barometric readings on your weather app. Now for the last invention, and it's the weirdest. Pascal didn't invent infinity, but he revolutionized how we think about it mathematically and philosophically. In mathematics, Pascal worked on infinitesimals, quantities approaching zero but never reaching it. This was early calculus, pre-Newton, pre-Leibniz. He was wrestling with how to think about infinite division, infinite series, things that keep going forever. His breakthrough: you can work with infinity rigorously. You can calculate with it. It's not mystical or incoherent. It's a mathematical object you can reason about precisely. This opened doors Newton and Leibniz walked through to create calculus. Every engineering calculation, every physics model, every piece of technology requiring continuous change over time, your car's braking system, your phone's GPS, the trajectory of satellites, depends on mathematics that treats infinity as calculable. Pascal made infinite series thinkable. But then, and this is so Pascal, he immediately applied infinite thinking to human existence. You know his most famous line: man is equally incapable of seeing the nothingness from which he emerges and the infinity into which he is engulfed. That's not poetry. That's mathematics applied to existential position. We're finite beings caught between two infinities, the infinite past before our birth, the infinite future after our death. We can't comprehend either. We're suspended in a moment, aware of our cosmic insignificance, terrified by it. But here's Pascal's twist. That terror is what makes us great. He writes, "Man is only a reed, the weakest in nature, but he is a thinking reed. Physically, we're nothing, fragile, tiny, temporary. The universe could crush us without noticing. But we can think about the universe crushing us. We can contemplate our own insignificance. We can understand infinity, even though we're finite. That awareness, that ability to think about our thinking, to know we're small, to grasp at concepts beyond our size, that's human greatness. This is Pascal's signature move, holding contradictions without resolving them prematurely. We're simultaneously miserable, aware of cosmic insignificance, and great, capable of cosmic awareness. Both are true. The tension between them defines human existence. You feel this tension constantly. You know your daily concerns are cosmically trivial, whether you get the promotion, whether your Instagram post gets likes, whether you said the right thing at the party. In the scale of infinite space and time, none of it matters. But you can't live in that awareness constantly. You have to care about the promotion, the post, the conversation. You have to act like finite things matter while knowing, intellectually, they're infinitely small. Pascal names that tension, doesn't resolve it, just names it honestly. And notice, the same guy who calculated infinite mathematical series is the guy telling you this existential truth. He's not abandoning precision. He's applying precision to the hardest questions. When Pascal talked about God, he uses infinite mathematics. An infinite being would be infinitely different from us, infinitely incomprehensible. We can't grasp infinity directly, but we can reason about it. We can acknowledge its existence while accepting our limitations. That's intellectually honest in a way most religious and atheistic thinking isn't. Religious people often pretend they understand God completely. Atheists often pretend infinity is just a math symbol with no metaphysical implications. Pascal refuses both shortcuts. He says, there's real infinity, mathematical and metaphysical. We're genuinely finite. That gap is unbridgeable by our reason, and yet we must think about it, because we're the creatures who can think about what we can't fully understand. Your mind stretches toward infinity every time you contemplate deep space, deep time, ultimate questions. You can't grasp it, you're finite, but you can gesture toward it. You can know it's there beyond your knowing. That's the human condition Pascal mapped, stuck between nothingness and infinity, capable of thinking about both, fully grasping neither. Every time you use calculus-dependent technology, which is basically all technology, you're using mathematical tools Pascal helped build for thinking about infinity. And every time you lie awake at 3 a.m. wondering what it all means, you're experiencing the existential position Pascal diagnosed with the same precision, same mind, same rigor, same refusal to look away from what's actually true, no matter how uncomfortable. So there you have it. 7 inventions you use constantly, probably without ever connecting them to the name Blaise Pascal. You calculated something today. That's the Pascaline's descendant. You assessed risk, checked odds, made a decision under uncertainty. That's probability theory. Maybe you took a bus or subway. That's public transportation's blueprint. You definitely checked the weather. That's barometric science. You might have gotten a vaccine or a blood test. That's syringe technology. And you definitely contemplated something bigger than yourself. Felt small, but capable of thinking about your smallness. That's infinity mathematics applied to existence. Pascal's in your pocket, in your commute, in your medicine cabinet, in your mind when it stretches toward questions too big to answer, but too important to ignore. But here's what I need you to see. These aren't random inventions by a guy who happened to also write about God sometimes. These are expressions of a single vision, a mind that brought the same precision to every domain of human experience. Compassion expressed through engineering, mathematics applied to mortality, Scientific rigor meeting spiritual honesty. Systematic thinking about systems we can't fully systematize. The calculator and the quiet room test aren't contradictions. They're the same investigative spirit applied to external and internal reality. When Pascal tells you to sit in silence for 30 minutes with no distractions, he's not being mystical. He's running an experiment. Hypothesis. Humans flee solitude because we're afraid of what we'll encounter in silence. Test. Eliminate distractions and observe what happens. Prediction. You'll feel anxious, reach your phone, experience discomfort Pascal called existential. Try it this week. Not because I'm telling you to, but because Pascal's track record is pretty good. He was right about atmospheric pressure when everyone else believed mystical nonsense. He was right about probability when nobody could mathematize randomness. He was right about public transit improving cities. He was right about infinitesimals leading to calculus. Maybe, just maybe, he's right about why you can't stop scrolling. Same precision, same empirical observation, same refusal to accept comfortable lies when uncomfortable truths are testable. You don't have to believe everything Pascal said. I don't. Lots of his religious arguments feel dated or incomplete, but you can't dismiss him as pre-modern superstition when his inventions are in your pocket, proving his mind worked. Here's what changes starting today. Every time you use your phone's calculator, remember, the mind that built this conceptual ancestor also diagnosed why you compulsively check the phone itself. Pascal created tools and analyzed tool addiction. Both insights true, both from the same precise observation. When you check weather and see barometric pressure, think, the guy who proved atmospheric pressure exists also proved existential pressure exists. You're under both. One pushes down physically, the other pushes in psychologically. Both are real, measurable, predictable. When you assess risk, insurance, medical decisions, career choices, you're using probability theory. Good. That's rational. Now apply it to the biggest wager. What are you betting your one finite life on? What's the expected value of your daily routines? What are the actual odds at what you're chasing will satisfy? Pascal's not asking you to become religious. He's asking you to think clearly about what you're already doing. You already calculate. You already assess probability. You already make wagers every day. You just don't think of them that way. The scrolling instead of sleeping? That's a wager. You're betting distraction will feel better than rest. How's that working? The job you hate but won't leave? That's a wager. You're betting security matters more than meaning. Calculate the expected value over 40 years. The relationship you know isn't right. The city you're staying in out of inertia. The life you're living because it's easier than questioning it. All wagers, all calculable. Pascal invented the mathematics. Then he showed you how to apply it to your existence. Not to paralyze you with existential dread, to free you to choose clearly. The calculator helps you think clearly about numbers. Pascal's psychological insights help you think clearly about your life. Same tool, higher stakes. There's a line from Pascal I can't forget. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Do you feel the weight of that? Do you recognize the diagnosis? You've been using Pascal's inventions all day, calculating, commuting, checking weather, thinking about infinity. His mind is woven into modern life invisibly. Now he's asking you to sit still and notice what happens when you stop using his tools. When you stop calculating, stop moving, stop checking, stop distracting. Just you, just silence, just the thoughts you've been algorithmically avoiding. That's the experiment. That's the test. 30 minutes this week. No phone, no TV, no music, no book. Just you in a quiet room. Pascal predicts you'll find it almost unbearable. You'll want to escape within 5 minutes. Questions will bubble up you've been drowning out with noise. Discomfort you've been medicating with motion. That discomfort is the data. That's what Pascal's asking you to observe with the same precision you'd observe mercury rising in a tube. Don't judge it. Don't fix it immediately. Just notice it. Notice what you're fleeing from. Notice what silence reveals. Imagine if he's right again. Imagine if the guy who invented your calculator and predicted your weather and designed your bus route also predicted exactly what happens when you stop running. This channel exists to discover thinkers like Pascal, minds that won't be dismissed, won't be simplified, won't let you look away from what's actually true. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of thinking. In the next video, we'll explore Pascal's wager itself, not as religious manipulation, but as ruthlessly logical risk assessment applied to ultimate questions. See you there. And meanwhile, may you find the courage to sit in Pascal's quiet room and meet what you've been avoiding.